In 1990, a woman sat on a train scribbling down ideas on a napkin. 7 years later, the same woman's fantasy of a young wizard and his two best friends was published, and this simple spark of an idea is now the largest grossing film series in history. The series has just released the seventh and final film, titled Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and Longwood University students, along with the entire world, seems to be looking forward to the movie. Catherine Wright, a Longwood University junior, comments.
I am really hoping that it follows the story. I have read some reviews online and people have said that it's the best one so far, so I think everyone's really excited about it. I think everyone here is kind of a diehard Harry Potter fan.
The seventh novel of the famous series, written by J.K. Rowling, has been decided by Warner Brothers to be represented the last and final movie of the film series by two parts. Part 1 was just released November 19th and grossed over $125 million on its opening weekend alone, and Part 2 will be expected to be released on July 15, 2011. Jason Brown, an employee at Sunchase Cinemas in Farmville, Virginia, comments on the crowd he experienced on opening weekend.
They are packed. 420-some people. Crowd is going crazy.
For Harry Potter?
Yes, Harry Potter 7, I believe, or 6. I think
How many theaters do y'all have open for this?
We have 2, and they hold 213 each.
Though the film series has popularized Harry Potter, the novels have captured young adults and children's hearts with the tale of a heroic young wizard. Dr. Tracy, assistant professor of medieval literature in the Department of English and Modern Languages at Longwood University, comments on how Rowling has produced such a successful piece of literature.
I think she's tapped into essentially a societal love of fantasy. We've had a lot of different series over the years that have dealt with wizards and witches and witchcraft and magic and things that sparks the imagination. And I think she just hit it at the right time. There was a growing interest in a lot of these fantasy tropes over the last 20, 30 years, and we haven't really had a literary outlet since Tolkien. There have been a lot of young adult books and a lot of children's literatures that kind of capture that imagination, but there hasn't been a book that really reaches the level that applies to everybody, that it is accessible to people who are young and old, or older rather, who can see it as adult as well as children's literature. And it actually, I think, carries on from what Tolkien did. It's just been 40 years since Tolkien published his work, and so we had a gap, and she fell into it at the exact right moment.
While the novels have grown from children's books into novels since the first book in 1997 to the seventh, Dr. McGee, associate professor of the Department of English and Modern Languages at Longwood University, commented on how Rowling has found a way to stay with her audience of readers, but also stay true to the novel's intentions.
Well, I think as you're watching the seventh movie, I could imagine people saying, this is not a children's movie anymore. I mean, there were some really, like when they go to Godric's Hollow and the lady that turns into a snake. And I can imagine people saying to themselves, this is beyond a children's movie. It's sort of transcended being a children's movie. That's a lot of people's approach, is to say the first movie kind of started out as a cute movie and it's grown over time. And so the answer for a lot of people would be, you've grown. And so it didn't just stay a certain thing, it morphed as you morphed. But I think that's a good answer, but I think a better answer is just that from the beginning, these books, the story was what was most important, and in a lot of ways Rowling just kind of ignored the common rules about children's books. And like especially around the fourth book, she said, I'm going to write a 750-page book, and I'm going to count on my readers to catch up and to count on my readers to be able to want to read a book like that. Like most people would say, I'm writing a children's book, I've got to make sure to make it a certain thing. She said, I'm going to write a book, and it happens to be a children's book. Those are always, in my mind, some of the best children's books, when it happens to be a children's book.
It's a sure thing that Rowling has made her mark in literature history, with countless awards such as the British Book Award for Children's Book of the Year, the Nestle Smarties Book Prize, and the Hans Christian Andersen Literature Award, just to name a few. The film series continues with the final and last movie to be released on July 15th, and I am predicting that Rowling, along with the rest of the world, will have a yearning for another piece of literature genius to capture their hearts. From LU Radio, this is Alex Myers reporting.